Peace, family. So we back with another one. Today what I want to do is I wanted to talk to my chosen ones about how the word narcissist is another word for demon. We got a lot of demons out here full force. They not hiding behind any curtains. They not hiding under any blankets. They not in any closets. They are out here on these streets. They are in these stores. They are in these schools. They at your workplace. They in your family. And I know this word get thrown out there a lot. I've talked about this, I want to say about 3 years ago when I first stepped in front of the camera. But I still see a lot of people using the term narcissist for beings who tend to be selfish. You know, it's a handful of characteristics that you could say would go hand to hand with the term narcissist. But without this missing link, they're completely separate entities. When you walk this life with the Creator, you will have certain times in your chapter and journey where you have to be selfish. But being selfish doesn't mean that you are doing things with ill intentions in your heart, on your spirit. That's where some of the biggest discrepancies come at when I see a lot of people talking about how, oh, well, you said that, that's narcissistic. Oh, you did that, that's narcissistic. Just because we respond to how certain people project or give their energy to us doesn't mean that we are demonic. A narcissist is a full-fledged demon. Two entities. You got the spirit, which is in charge of the vessel. The spirit, you can say, is the teacher driver. And the demon would be the student driver, the second driver of the vehicle, you know, the second person that can press the gas or press the brakes. It's just like when you get in your learner's permit for some who had to actually take the schooling class, because I didn't have to take the schooling class. I just had to hold my permit for 30 days. But it's a huge difference in these things. And a lot of people get it misconstrued and feel as though when you operate a certain way or you do things that they don't like, they would put you in a narcissistic category. I've had my BM say this about me. And in my world, I just kept, I didn't have any fight back or any pushback when she mentioned it to me, because she didn't mention it till later down the road. And like, they have this rare thing where they have to be in control, they have to have the power, they have to do some kind of manipulation. See, when you have beings who live by manipulation, this is their entire agenda. And I mean ill-intentioned manipulation, because we already understand on this side of the spectrum, you can manipulate people to do God's work. If you've been walking this life for a while, you've had people help you in situations and you knew that they did not want to help you. You saw their energy. You received it as, I don't want to do this. Even though they didn't use the words and tell you that they didn't want to. I've had plenty of people throughout my life help me or do things for me, and I could read their energy that they didn't want to, but it wasn't anything that they were helping me with that was ill-intentional. You know, it's just that they wasn't receiving anything for the energy that they were given, because they're used to hand-to-hand transaction or spirit-to-spirit transactions. I know the word and terminology isn't used as much anymore, because since narcissist has that terminology has been getting pushed back, a lot of people are saying everything is gaslighting. It's gaslighting, it's gaslighting, it's gaslighting. You have to understand that just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that that's a form of gaslighting. Gaslighting is the denial of someone's reality. So if I went into a room and I turned the light on and I leave out for however long I leave out and I come back and the light is off, and I ask the only person who's in the house, hey, did you turn that light off? I had the light switch on because, you know, some light switches are connected to the outlet sockets. So whatever you have plugged into that outlet socket, it's going to turn that off as well too. If they start denying and saying that they didn't never turn the light off, that would be a form of gaslighting. They are trying to deny my reality, which I understand that I turned the light on before I left out the room. It's been numerous of, you know, podcasts or videos I watch where people say, oh, you gaslighting me, because they're getting cut off and people talking over them, you know, or people are making other points. I've had this happen in real life myself. And it's like, I've never denied anyone's reality before a day in my life. If we have a disagreement, or if you did something, or vice versa, and it actually happened, I'll stand on it. That's not that much of a big issue for me or a big deal as far as, you know, owning my actions or, you know, my communication as far as how it's being perceived when I'm engaging with someone. But a lot of people out here aren't really understanding the terminology that's being used. And once you actually can understand and be able to break these things down, it'll make life a lot more simpler for you. And then when you hear people using this terminology, it won't throw you off. And for a lot of us, we have way too much empathy. We care way too hard to even be put anywhere near that category. My empathy has always been so high to the level, even when I was younger, I could remember like seeing a friend get hurt or associate or anybody just out in my proximity. If something, they caught a really bad injury, I would feel that injury or some kind of acknowledgement in that same part of my body that they had their injury in. So if my daughter hurt her elbow and I'm sitting there watching her hurt her elbow by accident, you know, she don't do it on purpose, but I visibly see it. I literally can feel what others are feeling. And I know a lot of us over here in this spectrum process and are around and near the same empathy levels, you know. I've never tried to disconnect from my feelings, but I've also been one of them people who I'm not just to sit there and take it. I'm an eye for an eye. I know a lot of people like to say, hey, well, you wait on the creator, you wait on the source. We're here in this realm for a reason. And if somebody did something to my daughter or somebody that I care about, I'm not waiting on source or creator. I'm here in this physical body to take action. And a lot of content and knowledge and information that's being pushed at us and that's getting fed to us is telling us, hey, if something happens to somebody you care about, don't do anything. For most people, if you choose not to do anything, cool, don't, you know. But for me on this side of the spectrum, I've always been a warrior. I've always been a fighter. You know, I just understand now at the level and frequency that I'm at that you have to pick and choose wisely when to respond with an action opposed from taking care of that battle or managing that battle in the spiritual realm. Two different things. Two different ways of fighting, but it's still fighting. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself. You'll never learn how to protect yourself properly You'll never learn how to protect yourself properly or feel fully comfortable protecting yourself if you've never taken action before. Like, I seen some guy, he was feeling really bad in his video about some stuff that had happened to him with the hospitals, and you know how they was taking advantage of him. They overcharged him, they didn't do certain procedures, you know, they overdid certain procedures, and he felt like he just really got done wrong in the process. And to a degree, I kind of felt bad for him, you know what I mean? Because I could tell that, you know, he was a little fucked up in the process. But at the same time, he was making statements behind almost every, he was making a comment behind almost every statement that he made, as far as, and there's nothing he can do, there's not anything that he can do. We can always take action. That's the beauty in this. We can always take action. It's just, are you willing to deal and live through certain consequences? And a lot of people ain't built to deal with certain consequences. So you know what? They take the weaker or the lesser route. Away from conflict, away from friction, you know. Or what they're pushing now is, don't do anything, just leave it to the Creator. If our job was to leave everything to Source and Creator, what the fuck are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be doing? What would be our purpose here? Everything that demonic team has, these demons, these narcissists, everything that they have and they are doing on their side of the spectrum, they copied from us over here. So y'all basically allowed the system to trick y'all out of fighting back because you're so afraid of the consequences. The thing with the consequences is we all gotta go. You know, I would much rather go out here on solid terms, standing on my 2 feet, and my daughter knowing that I fought for something greater than myself, opposed from me not taking any action, not fighting for anything, you know, unless it was like very minimal consequences, because we're gonna have to jump out there eventually. That was the whole point of breaking down this terminology with people using narcissism. Communication is a huge part as far as understanding how to use your words or spells, and spells are real, vocabulary against them, and how you can use your words and vocabulary in your favor. You can use them in your favor. The same way they got ill-intentional spells, we got healing spells. And when we really want to, we can cast spells over there for ill intentions as well too. We have to be more willing to understand the enemy and their tactics. That is going to be one huge way you can keep you and your family, or the ones you care about, safe. You know, it's like I tell my mini all the time, like, I'm not always going to be here to physically protect you. Yes, you can always call me or do all these other things, but you know, me and mom not together, so she's always going to have that space away from me. Anything can happen when she's in those spaces. So I make sure I prepare her with the spiritual tools that she needs. You know, if you in a down space, communicate with Source and Creator, or talk to Daddy in the spirit world. The message will get relayed to me. You know what I mean? When you have to deal with weird little demonic narcissistic children, because their parents are the same thing, so they're literally raising little me's, you know what I mean? So they want their child to be a reflection of them. So in order for their child to be a reflection of them, they have to create chaos and trauma within their own child, because that's the path that they took and what was given to them. See, for me, and for us on this side of the spectrum, we're not going to cause harm and ill intentions to people who haven't done anything to us. But if you've done something to us, you fair game. You fair game. And there is no cut cards when you're fair game. Once you've already crossed certain borderlines and boundaries, there is no more cut cards. You forgive yourself, but you don't forgive these demons out here. You know, we put more faith in believing in them than they believed in themselves. You know, we give off so much love and light, and it replenishes itself so fast. And just saying it just made me realize, like, you could spend hours at a job, all these demons at your job facility. You get home drained. By the end of the night, you done recharged up your energy more because you haven't been in that toxic environment with all these people who are extracting your energy even when you aren't speaking to them. You don't have to talk to people for them to pull your energy. The first form of communication before we started using these verbal words was sign language. Why y'all think we don't use sign language now? You know, it makes sense when we are communicating with other cultures that don't speak our language. We use sign language when we talking. I'll talk to somebody that speaks, I don't know, French. I'll be like, you hungry? I'm saying you hungry in English language, but it's my sign language that's painting the image for them, that's letting them know, hey, whatever words he's using, he's talking about food. We have a lot of Spanish people, you know, around us everywhere that either just got here or been here and they still hold on to their Spanish language. We all do the same thing communicating with them. So understanding the terminology that's being used. It's only gaslighting if you are denying someone's reality or they're denying your reality. Not if you say, yeah, I went to the pool yesterday, and they be like, you ain't go to the pool yesterday. If they wasn't with you, that's not really a form of gaslighting. A form of gaslighting would be more direct, meaning that both of y'all were together all day long. Then y'all going out for dinner, and now you're telling a story about when you went to the pool earlier in the day, and they be like, you didn't go to the pool earlier that day. They would know because they've been with you all day. The communication is like, I feel like it's something that has to be thrown in to every communication, like every subject, every form that has to deal with using this verbal language, putting these letters, words, and sounds and syllables together. We're relaying a message. When I relay a message, I pick the words I choose carefully, so that way nobody has to misinterpret. You don't have to read in between the lines of the message. Because when you deal with these narcos out here, they will twist and turn everything you're saying because they don't speak directly. So they assume that because they don't, we don't. They should already understand we aren't like them. They not like us. We don't have the same processors. We don't follow the same belief system. They don't believe in creator or source. And even if they do believe in creator or source, they've dug themselves in such a deep hole with the opposition that they don't want to deal with the repercussions and the consequences that would come with leaving the team or facing the shame as you're walking with your head down to tell the other team, my bad, I'm sorry, I messed up, I fucked up. You know what I mean? And then they would also have to walk that life. Narcissists are not just selfish people. I hate the fact that people do that and they'll go back to the guy who it was, he just loved to look at himself and all this other shit. If it was all about being selfish, then wouldn't we call every baby a narcissist? Wouldn't we call every child that's growing from 0 years old from the belly all the way up until 8 or 9, wouldn't we call them narcissists? But we don't. Most children are the purest form, so a lot of their behaviors is taught. And most of the traits and attributes come from the man. So usually if it's some kind of deformity or if it's something weird, wacky going on with the child, it's usually because of the seed, not the soil. Sometimes you can blame the soil, but for the most part, it's going to be the seed. And from a lot of my real life walk experiences and engaging with so many people, it's been mostly due to the seed. The seed was tainted, diluted, tampered with. Something wasn't right with the seed. And the child was raised as close to healthy as it possibly could be, but it still had, that other deity connected to it based off of the seed. And if we want to use the generational curse part attached to it, if they're not working those kinks out. But narcos, you got to pay attention to the ill intentions. If you ain't doing anything out here, you don't operate with ill intentions, then you don't have to look or think about or process as you being the narcissist. A lot of us dibble dabble back and forth with that part. And if you speaking to parents, you trying to get them to take ownership and they in denial, or they are actually gaslighting you because we was raised with them. I've had my mom do this on numerous occasions, but before I was at the frequency that I'm at, it used to fuck with my mind a little bit. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, damn, were you sure? And the last subject that me and her had, I remember talking to her about helping her with her business and telling her that, I could help with the advertisement. I could come in, take some photos. I could do videography work to put your little advertisement commercial together for you to market it out. And she never used me for any of that. And then like a little while ago, I brought it back to her attention. She's like, oh yeah, I don't remember you saying that. I don't remember that. I don't remember. I don't recall you doing that. I have excellent fucking memory. So you're not going to be able to gaslight me out of remembering whether or not I had this kind of conversation with you, because I can break it down exactly when we had the conversation, how, maybe not to the extent as far as how long the conversation, but I've known that I've definitely had this conversation with you. Anytime my emotions is connected to an event or an experience, it puts a bookmarker right there. In any situations I had with my mom, it's always gonna be a bookmark there, But I know that my mom is a narco and she isn't trying to get herself out of that space. I know my BM is a narco, she's not trying to get out of that space. They talking about MPD and BPD. No, you don't have to be no specialist to speak on things, because we speak on things all the time and we aren't no damn specialists. I hate when people say that, oh, you didn't go through the system to get their paperwork to speak on it. I don't give a fuck. I don't believe in their system. So why do I feel that I need to go through their steps and their precautions in order for me to follow the creator's belief system, which has been here, and I can look out in natural nature life and see how it's operating? Be mindful of people who dabble back and forth like that, because a lot of people would do that. Oh, you're not a professional in that space. If the system shut down right now, you are a professional based on your experiences, not by no paperwork. You are a professional based on your experiences, not by no paperwork. Oh, you're not a doctor or a physician to speak on this. I don't give a damn. The creator gave me a voice, this throat chakra, and I am going to use it. Also gave me a backbone, which I'm going to stand straight up. Also gave me 2 feet that I'm going to constantly stand on both. We got to keep these things in mind when we out here dealing with these people and they creating these new words to twist people up and to do all of these other things, because it's a form of manipulation. If you weren't running around manipulating people with ill intentions and solely on your own behalves and your own benefits, don't put yourself in the narco category. But if you getting that vibration from other people, friends, family, spouses, and you know that it's coming with ill intentions, you already know what team they playing for. Ain't even no point of going back and forth with them because you already know what you got to do. They're trying to destroy you, so you're going to have to get out their way or you're going to have to fight back. It's really that simple. You know, I'm not a runner or a track star, but I do pick my battles wisely. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I'm just going to sit there and spout with everybody, but you have to be mindful and pick your battles wisely. Keep these things in mind when you out here listening to some of this content that's out here, when you out here operating in real life and you see people using this terminology and they only are putting it with selfishness. You can be selfish with source and creator because you are getting ready to transition. If I don't want to share my food with somebody and I feel like being selfish because I'm hungry and I haven't eaten all day, I'm not doing that with ill intentions. I need to replenish my body. We can name 1,000 examples of how you can be selfish and it does not correlate to having ill intentions. It's all in the intentions, you know. But I ain't want to run it up too long. Tapping everything down below. Peace and love to the kings and queens.